This is WYCE's Community Close-Up, our weekly public affairs program, produced in partnership with the Rapidian, a hyperlocal news service here at the Grand Rapids Community Media Center. Community Close-Up brings you a diverse perspective of viewpoints from community leaders throughout West Michigan. This is WYCE Station Manager Phil Tower in studio this week with guest Joel Westphal. Joel is the Deputy Director of the Gerald R. Presidential Library and Museum, and in this segment, we're going to be talking with him about his role as chair of the Greatest Generation Celebration, a series of days coming up in just a few more weeks, commemorating the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II with a long overdue, heartfelt tribute to the Greatest Generation. Boy, that was a mouthful, Joel, but I think I got most of it in.
You did great, Phil.
Thank you. I've done this a few times, and hopefully it's downhill from here. I'm really glad to have you in the studio. We're glad to have you here at the Community Media Center, and really to unpack a lot that's going on. You have been with the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Library and Museum. I know this because you just told me this before we started recording this episode, about 8 years. Where were you before you came to Grand Rapids?
Well, I had a very long career, still same with the federal government, but prior to that, I mostly spent most of my time in the Department of Defense. I worked at U.S. Central Command, working overseas in Iraq and other countries as well, and then spent some time working at that very strange building in Washington with 5 sides.
The Pentagon.
Yes.
Interesting.
My position prior to this one was I was the Archivist of the United States Navy.
We could do a whole other program on that, but I digress. What attracted you to come to Grand Rapids when you saw this job with the Ford Presidential Library and Museum?
I am a true Midwesterner at heart.
Okay.
Washington, D.C. is a great place, but culturally, it just never kind of sunk in because I am that kind of true Midwesterner. I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin,
All right.
and this was as kind of close to me staying with working for the federal government than I could get to be kind of close to home and family.
Yeah, I like that. And, it's interesting. D.C. does have seasons, but they really don't have a winter. I guess maybe a couple of days of winter. I've been there in the wintertime when it's been in the 60s. So I know it's not the same as
it's a lot more humid. Yeah, it's a lot more humid than here. The weather is a little bit better, but they get a somewhat of a winter, but not much of one.
You are chair of what is known as the Greatest Generation Celebration. I want to rewind a little bit to the genesis for this idea.
Yeah.
80 years to celebrate the end of World War II, which is hard to believe just to get your head around that. But why a celebration and why now? Let's talk about that.
Well, the genesis of this is kind of odd because, as I just talked about my kind of federal service, back in 2019, there was a government shutdown. So I was on furlough. And I get very bored very quickly when I have nothing to do. And I just happened to be watching a documentary from Michigan's own Ken Burns on the Civil War. And I saw in his very first episode a 75th celebration of the Civil War, the ending of the Civil War, with Civil War soldiers walking through streets in Washington and Franklin Delano Roosevelt honoring their service. And I thought, wow, who's doing that for the Greatest Generation and the Second World War? And it turned out it was no one. And I started up at that time, it was just the Greatest Generation Day. It was one day. This is different now. This year, this September, this is a week long. But back then in 2020, it was a day. We put together the big flyover. We had to change everything because the pandemic hit right in the middle of all our planning. And everything was kind of taken online. It was still a really great program with a great flyover. I often joke that the flyover was probably one of the largest super spreaders in the entire state of Michigan on September 2nd, 2020. There were tens of thousands of people lined up along the river, just begging to get outside, doing something.
Sure.
And it really ended up being a really great event. And we decided, you know what? Because we couldn't do the entire thing like we wanted to do, even though Grand Rapids did hold the largest celebration of the 75th in the continental United States, the only larger one was in Hawaii, we decided we wanted to do that again, because this is going to be the last time any of the Greatest Generation are going to be alive. They're already in their mid-90s.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our last chance, this 80th, and we want to do it right this time.
It's truly remarkable, and we're losing them every day. And if you think about it, even someone who entered active duty at the age of 18 in 1945 would be 98 years old.
That is correct. That is correct.
Hard to get your head around, but
absolutely,
they are still living. We have a handful of them here in Michigan and a few in Grand Rapids. But let's talk about this several-day celebration for the greatest generation, and it's all here in West Michigan, kicking off Joel Westphal with a Labor Day, Monday, September 1st, honor parade and Wings of Honor flyover. This sounds fantastic. 10:30 to 12:30 in downtown Grand Rapids. Yeah. What will people see?
It's going to be a really cool parade. It starts at 10:30 downtown Grand Rapids. It's going to be a World War II era style parade. We have planes from the Air Zoo coming up here being towed. We got cars from Gilmore and other volunteers. We got Meyer's 1934 truck from Meyer. Just a lot of kind of, again, it's going to look like and feel like a 1945 parade that really never happened in Grand Rapids at the end of the war. There was really never a kind of a major celebration, even at the end of the war in 45 for this. So we thought, let's do kind of an era style parade.
What's also something that's worth noting, at 8:08 p.m. that night, Monday, September 1st, there will be bells ringing across Grand Rapids. This is worth making sure you've got your front door open and your screen door so you can hear this, or step out on the porch and you will hear the bells ring at 8:08 that night, the moment World War II officially ended.
That's an odd time, 8:08 p.m. So don't be weirded out by the bells ringing at 8:08. So if you know about it, know what's going on. But yeah, 8:08 p.m. on actually September 1st, because the difference of the time difference between Tokyo and Grand Rapids, the signing, the actual signature, the final signature affixed by General MacArthur on the deck of the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay actually happened here in Grand Rapids at 8:08 p.m. That was the official end of the war. September 2nd was the party. Truman declared September 2nd to be VJ Day, and that was the big celebration day. But the actual signing was actually that here in the United States at 8:08 p.m.
We're speaking, by the way, with the chair of the Greatest Generation Celebration, also Deputy Director of the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Library and Museum, Joel Westphal, as we talk about the Greatest Generation Celebration. If you're hearing us on the radio, you're wondering, how do I find out more? I want to make sure I'm involved, bring my family. Maybe you even have some older relatives who would appreciate being a part of this. ggcelebration.org is the website, ggcelebration.org. And the simplest way to find it, just search on Facebook. You can follow them, Greatest Generation Celebration. It's worth finding that page and following to get the very latest updates. One of the things, Joel, that I know you know, I'm keenly aware of this. Our schools have been trying to do a lot with less over the last several decades. Not everything that we'd like them to know about history, especially history from 80 years ago about the war, is something they are regularly exposed to. And I'm talking about high school students, college-age students, even adults in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. It's really important to take advantage of the next thing coming up, which is a lecture series at the Ford Museum, actually various venues. You've got Rick Atkinson, a great World War II historian at the JW Marriott, Tuesday, September 2nd. Yep. An award-winning historian, Garrett Graff, on the same night at the Gerald R. Ford Library in Ann Arbor. He'll also be in Grand Rapids on Wednesday, September 3rd at the Loosemore Auditorium, DeVos Center at Grand Valley State University, hosted by the Hauenstein Center for Presidential Studies. I want you to talk about Sir Anthony, is it Beaver?
Beaver.
From, he is...
Sir Anthony is the GOAT.
He is the GOAT. He's a British historian.
He's the GOAT of the Second World War. He has more books. He has sold more books on the Second World War than anybody in history. You have to go back maybe to Keenan to kind of look at a similar individual who was a major author of the Second World War. He is a big guy. He was knighted by the current King of England himself. He is a knighted. He is Sir Anthony Beaver, and he has written an incredible amount of different books on the Second World War. And I'm going to be actually interviewing him from across the pond. He's going to be in London. That's going to be a noon event, but where people will be able to watch that on YouTube, and we'll make sure that you can see that. Yeah.
Okay, I want to give you that time again. Thursday, September 4th, streamed on YouTube, and Joel will be doing that with Sir Anthony Beaver in London at noon on Thursday, September 4th. The granddaughter of President Dwight D. Eisenhower also speaking at the Ford Presidential Museum on Thursday, September 4th at night, 6:30 p.m. What's she going to talk about?
Well, Susan is going to talk about the legacy of her grandfather, President Eisenhower, what he meant to the greatest generation, and kind of his leadership. It's called the title of the lecture is called Perspectives on the Greatest Generation, and she's going to talk about what that generation means to Americans then and means to Americans today.
Yeah, and it's important to remember one of the great leaders of World War II who later became the president of the United States. We've got about 2.5 minutes left. One of the things worth highlighting is a prayer service, Convocation of Remembrance, on Tuesday night at 6 p.m. There are so many things going on. Yeah. You're going to have to try to find a way to split your time or maybe send a friend to one place and a friend to another. But this is at St. Andrew's Cathedral. It is a interfaith prayer service, obviously honoring the hundreds of thousands of people who either served and died or served and have since passed on.
Yeah, actually, Michael Vandenid from the World Affairs Council of Western Michigan is going to be actually leading that convocation along with some faith leaders in the region. It's more of a solemn event. We have another, of course, a different type of event going on at that same time, which I will be at, is at the ballpark, at the Whitecaps LMCU Park. It is Greatest Generation Night at the ballpark. We're going to have a special guest who's going to be throwing out the first pitch. He's a member of the Greatest Generation himself, Gene Corey, and we're going to be looking forward to that, as well as it's a special hat giveaway. It's Greatest Generation Night at the ballpark, presented by the committee as well as Meyer. Meyer Corporation is heavily involved with this.
Very cool, and the Whitecaps will actually be wearing military tribute uniforms. I do want to shout out our one and only Michael Van Dennen, who is a programmer on Saturday morning and has been for over 25 years here at WICE. So I'm really thrilled to know that he's going to lead that Convocation of Remembrance service at St. Andrews. And finally, the Greatest Generation celebration in Grand Rapids has a cinematic salute to film. These are all classic World War II films: Flags of Our Fathers, The Great Dictator, The Great Escape, and Casablanca, Friday, September 5th through Sunday, September 7th. All the films are free to the public. All the films will play in the outdoor piazza at Celebration Cinema Studio Park. Weather permitting, if there's rain, the films are off, I'm taking it.
Yeah, that's right. We have a lot of films going on. Thank you very much to Celebration Cinema and Studio Park for collaborating with us on that World War II Film Festival.
Yeah, it's really cool. I can't believe we covered almost everything. And I'm sure we covered it pretty fast. But again, as Joel has encouraged, you want to go to, on Facebook, Greatest Generation Celebration. Just Google that. Or you can go to ggcelebration.org, ggcelebration.org. Anything else real quickly, Joel, you want to share with us?
No, Phil, thank you for having us out. And again, I just kind of want to illustrate, this is the last chance to say thank you for, this generation of Americans. When we take a look back, we think of what they all went through, first with the Great Depression, which basically, forged their sword, if you will, for doing what they did, allowing them to do what they did, the kind of trauma and hardships they went through in that Great Depression is what kind of led them to the successes that they were able to do in the Second World War. And we just want to say thank you one more time to these people.
Well, thank you for spearheading that. Thank goodness for that spark of inspiration because of COVID that caused you to want to do this. This is really terrific. Thank you to the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Library and Museum, the Ford Foundation, for making this all happen. And we hope our listeners will get out and support it. Joel Westphal, Deputy Director of the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Library and Museum, also Chair of the Greatest Generation Celebration, with us on WYCE's Community Close-Up, a weekly public affairs program produced with the Rapidian here at the Grand Rapids Community Media Center. That's our program for this week. It's WYCE Station Manager Phil Tower saying thank you for listening. We'll join you next week right here.